You're listening to The Featured Voice, a podcast summer series on the Audio Flow with Jacques.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to The Featured Voice, and I can't believe we are at episode 12. We have gone through 12 weeks of new narrators, or those that you may have been familiar with but not haven't had as many opportunities to listen to their work. But we have made it through 12 weeks. That's 12 people to add to your collection. Well, 11. Today makes 12. And I'm so excited that we did this. It has been such an honor and a lot of fun networking and connecting with these talented artists. And I could not be more grateful or appreciative for them taking the chance and opportunity and taking the chance and just being on this show with me. I know I'm a little flustered just because I'm so excited about it, and it's just been amazing. And the fact that the next 2 seasons will be coming up soon, and you'll get a chance to meet more great people. But this week, as we close The Featured Voice, I thought it would be perfect to end it with someone a little more seasoned in the industry. She narrates saucy books, and those are the ones that I love the most. I can't say that. I'll take that back. Not that I love the most. I appreciate all audiobooks. Some of the saucier ones tend to keep me a little more engaged during certain times of the day. Let's put it that way. And I had a chance to meet her briefly at the Audio Publishers Association, and I just followed up with her a couple weeks ago and said, hey, would you be interested in being a part of The Featured Voice? I have a spot open. And she jumped right on board and said that she would love to be a part. So I'm so happy to have her on the show so that we can get to know a little bit more about her and what she's up to, new projects, what she's been doing, how she got started in the industry. So let's welcome the Featured Voice guest for week 12, Lia Langola. Hi, Lia. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited and happy to have you close out the season of The Featured Voice. And it's so funny because I know that you thought you were going to be on the Audio Flow, but I promise you, it's all the same.
I'm excited because I've listened to the Audio Flow and I know what you do, and it's great. So this is wonderful.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So everyone, like I said before, I did have a chance to meet Lia at the Audio Publishers Association, kind of meet and greet, actually. And we met in passing, and she gave me this nice little gift. And it was very untraditional, I think, but it was great marketing. So yeah, she gave me some lube, and let me just tell you guys, I know this, it's The Featured Voice. We're supposed to talk about good fun facts, and we'll get to how she started and everything. But she gave me this lube, and let me tell you guys, it might be TMI, but the stuff is really good. So if you want to get some, you should. Are you a distributor?
I am not a distributor. I just called them, I wrote to them and said, this is what I'm doing. Would you be interested in sponsoring me and giving me some things to pass out? And they said yes. So Uber Lube partnered with me, and I'm passing the samples out as I see people and letting them know it's a really good lube, because it is. And then if people contact me who've gotten those packages, they email me, I'll send them a free audiobook.
See, that's nice. It all goes back to marketing. And because Lia, narrates these nice, saucy, sexy books, I mean, it just seems like it's a good fit. So I have to give you the applause clap on the marketing for the Uber Lube. And thank you, Uber Lube, for partnering with Lia on that. We appreciate you.
Yes, very much so.
So Lia, let's learn a little bit about you. I know you told me that you got a couple of thunderstorms happening. What part of U.S. are you in?
I am on the East Coast, and right now it's just raining. The thunderstorms they said that were supposed to happen have not, so I'm hoping they don't, so I can record later this afternoon without interruption. So
yeah, that would be nice. Now I'm looking at your, are you in your studio? Am I seeing your booth there?
My booth is right behind me, yes. I'm
Okay.
sitting at my desk across from it, yes.
Okay, so can you describe for us a little bit? I know this is a little backwards, but since I'm looking at her, I love to know what's in the booth. And so you have a desk outside of your office. So kind of describe what your booth. I see a chair.
Yep.
It's a very interesting chair.
It's a chair from the 1970s. It belonged to my father when he worked at Western Union.
Oh, wow.
And they were changing out their chairs. They brought it home. It doesn't squeak. It doesn't move. It is comfortable. It is ugly. But I'll tell you what, I can sit in that for long periods of time and not have any issues, unlike every other chair I've tried that squeaks or rolls or does something. And then inside that, my husband had made a small table that I covered with some Irish linen to make it look kind of pretty. And then I've got a monitor inside, of course, my headphones and microphone, and then the main PCU is outside so that it doesn't pick up the fan.
I love it. Okay, so I'm a child of the 70s, and that's why I was like looking at that chair, like that's a real interesting chair. It almost looks familiar. And wow, the way that they made chairs back then, non-squeaking chairs, I kind of feel like they should get back to that.
Oh, no, okay, it's a solid piece of metal. And again, it's as you can see, it's that ugly 70s brown two-tone thing, and it's beige painted metal, but I wouldn't trade that chair for the world. People have tried to tell me to get rid of it. I'm like,
You heard it here, people. Lia swears by the 1970s ugly, unsqueakable, full-on metal chair. It should be in everybody's booth. There you have it.
Yes.
I think we just came up with a new product that you should kind of sell chairs and call them Lia's. And and it should be 1970s chairs for people in studios. See how that brainstorming worked?
That's awesome. Especially if you can find originals and just reupholster them a little bit, because
you can
seat looking pretty bad.
That's okay. See, you can and they can be, well, we don't want to say they're sitting on a Lia. There you go. And they get a free pack of lube to go with it.
Yes, there they go.
See, all the ideas we come up with on the Feature Voice, I'm telling you, if we all just got together, we'd have our own branding. You guys would be selling your own mics and headsets and chairs and audio, all kind of stuff we just come up with, and I promote it right here on the show. There you go.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, so you're on the East Coast now. Are you originally from there?
No, I've actually lived all over the United States, so just kind of everywhere. You pick the borders of the U.S. I've lived on all the borders. At some point in my life, I am back on the East Coast after being in Texas for 20-some years. Okay. So being back outside the D.C. area, I've been here for just over 5 years now. So,
do you miss Texas, or do you prefer the East Coast versus the heat?
Well, I like Texas for a lot of things. I like the cost of living is fantastic out there. And I have, all my adult friendships and things like that were established out there, and a lot of my previous careers were out there. But out here, it's so nice because it's green and it's lush, and I can see the Shenandoah Mountains from our backyard. So that's a beautiful contrast to the somewhat dry Texas area. So, but I also like being close to DC with all the Smithsonian museums. So that's a lot of fun. I'm kind of a nerd that way, but
Okay. Well, museums are great. They're a lot of fun, and then you get to learn things that you thought you knew in school, and then you go to a museum and you're like, and you put the pieces together. And I think as an adult, you can appreciate those things a lot better. In school, I hate it. I'm like, I don't want to go to the museum. I don't want to go to the zoo. I don't want to see any animals. Can we go to an amusement park? I don't want to learn it. Well, I don't want to say I want to learn anything, but we were, it was all about, I was a kid, right? And so that is beautiful. I was in Arizona, so I kind of miss the heat, and now I'm in Indiana. So there's no mountains, it's just, it is what it is, and trains. So,
Well, Arizona is beautiful too. So hopefully you can go back and visit. I've got family out there, so I go every once in a while myself.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get back there. So let's talk a little bit about your career. And what's your background before you got into audiobooks? What were you doing?
I did a number of different things, but probably the one that would be more interesting to your listeners is back in Texas. For several years, I worked at an adult novelty store.
Ah, yes, I love you.
And that's what we had to call it because Texas has some very strict rules on wording and things like that. You can't say sex shop and things like that. So
The nudie bar, you can't say any stuff like that.
no, and I mean, even describing the products sold there, unless it was deemed, quote, medical, which condoms were, everything else had like code names for them. And we had to use those because if you said the wrong things and it happened to be an undercover police officer, you could get a ticket or be arrested. It was really lame. But, it was fun. It made for interesting conversations because when they're like, oh, I would like this. It's like, oh, you mean a cake topper? What? A cake topper. And then I have to go and show them what a cake topper is in Texas. So,
Oh my gosh.
it's a lot of fun.
So it's a massager.
Well, a personal massager is what other people would call a vibrator.
Yes.
A topper is what other people call a dildo. An exerciser is a penis enhancer. Do condoms and lube because those were medical.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun. It was, again, interesting conversations, meeting very interesting people. And again, one of the most fun jobs I had. Even though it's met some strange people, most of the people were really, really cool. And yeah, it was fun.
Gosh, I wish I had known you back then because that would have been so funny. But it's still funny. My face hurts just laughing.
Yeah, if you came into the shop and I had to give you the whole spiel, you would just be like, just your eyes widening and probably laughing, like you said. It's ridiculous, and the things people come up with are hilarious. So
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, were you able to take any of that and kind of incorporate it into now your career as as a narrator?
Absolutely, because one of the things I loved about that particular company and why I applied to work with them is they are very big on educating their employees about sexual health, about taking care of your body. They would have corporate meetings where they bring in people who we sell the products of, and they would let us grill them with questions. And they were always very open about answering those things. So there was a lot of sex education, which when I was working there, I found lacking for many people. That's a whole nother discussion about the school system. I'm going into that, and and it's still taboo topics for so many people. So when I got into doing audiobooks, the first 2 books I did were sex education based for adults. Now it's about the art of being kinky, so encouraging you to explore some of your fantasies. And another one about talking dirty, because I cannot tell you how many people came into that store, men and women, asking me what they should say in bed because their partner wanted them to talk dirty.
Wow.
It was I'm at least 2 to 3 times a week I would get that question, and so I'm like, I'm not going to tell you what to say in bed, but here's something to think about. You have to be comfortable with it and things like that. So I enjoyed that aspect from having been in the store to be doing the sex ed books with a playful edge. The Ultimate Guide to Sexual Fantasy is a book about kissing that I did. That was really fun. But for people who really don't know anything, it's a nice
and it's on
way to open
audio
up. And in audio. So yeah,
I'm gonna go download it now.
It's a lot of fun, and there's some good tips in there. There's some things I had never heard of. In one of the books, I was like, "Do what now? Fire play?" I still don't know what fire play is, and that will be one I'm not going to research because I have no interest in it. But apparently, fire play exists.
Yeah, you don't want to burn anybody or get burned, I mean, some people do, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, because the electric play is a big thing. I had a big debate with one of the regulars at the store about that because he wanted to do electric play, and I was like, and we just went back and forth, and I forbid him from doing it. But I mean, like, I had any control of him outside of the store, but
I love it.
It's your body. You got to take care of it, respect it, and of course, explore the sexual nature. It's fantastic, but consenting, safe.
Yes. Exactly.
is very, very, very important. And I always stress that, especially when people had questions or a partner was maybe pressuring the other one into trying something they weren't comfortable with. So I'm very passionate about that. So anytime a sex ed book comes my way, I'm like, yes, please, let me
I
jump.
love it. It sounds like you were more into therapy, than retail. I mean, well, we do have retail therapy, but it's more like sex education retail therapy. One-stop shop right here.
And it was really interesting because I think maybe it was the age that I wasn't really a young kid, and a lot of them were like the college age kids were working there. I was in my 30s. People felt comfortable telling me things. I mean, I got medical history of some people, and some people legitimately were looking for something to help them medically, and their doctors actually sent them to the store looking for certain things.
Right.
But yeah, I took it very seriously, and if somebody asked me something I didn't know the answer, I'm like, you need to talk to your doctor, or do some research. I mean, because I don't claim to know everything, but I take it very seriously because, again, this is your body. And, in my life, I've met a number of people who have been victims of various sexual assaults and things like that. And I do not, obviously, I don't approve of that, but I want to be very careful, and I want to encourage people to explore who they are sexually, so they can enjoy that aspect of their life.
Right.
So there's a lot of different things that pile onto it that make me. I'm just passionate about them. So.
Yes, you are, and I totally appreciate. I love it. So, what was your segue into going into narrating audiobooks? Do you have any background in? Well, gosh, it seems like. Well, I won't say you're theatrical, but you're a big influence, I think. And like you said, you have this passion. So what was kind of your, I'm going to go into narrating audiobooks?
Well, I do have a theater background.
See? I think that.
Lots of stage work. And then when I moved to Virginia, I had a big change in life. I won't go into mondo details, but I had to find a career where I could work from home. And the basic was we had a terminally ill family member living with us who needed 24-hour care. So having to be at home more often was very important. And a colleague of mine who knew me back from theater days said, hey, you've done a little bit of voice work here and there. Why not try audiobooks? I thought, well, why not? So that opened the door, and I've been doing it for 4 years now, consistently, nonstop. And that's awesome. So
it is. Congratulations. So do you still have any time to do any theater work, or are you just, straight narrating now? Do you just, decide to go and do a couple plays every now and then?
I would love to get back into doing that. Right now where I live, the nearest theater would be about an hour drive, and my life does not give me 2 hours of round trip driving plus rehearsals right now, with family commitments and things. So I will get back to it. But until then, audiobooks is a wonderful outlet too, because you play not just that one character, you play everyone.
Everybody.
And it's so much fun. So that I get my theater kick sort of that way.
And we enjoy you playing everyone. So do you remember what your first audiobook was like, and what it was, and what that whole process felt like for you?
The first book I actually did two simultaneously for the same author. The first one that came out, because it was shorter, was called The Art of Kinky Sex. And the second one was How to Talk Dirty. So again, sex ed. So my first two books were those. And it was a lot of fun. I had only not been working on this in adult novelty for a couple of years at that point. But I missed it. And so this again fed that kind of a passion for me. But it was a huge learning experience, switching from stage to a microphone where you're talking to one person versus a whole, theater full of people you have to project to. So there was an adjustment period. And I think if you were to go back and listen to samples of the older stuff, you'd be like, yeah, she's come a long way. Because I think we all have that learning curve. There's those few in the beginning. You'd like, oh, I'd like to redo those someday.
Yeah, and then you get too busy, and of course you can't go back and redo them, and you hope that it still comes across as. I mean, it's your first one, of course. With everything, we get better, but I really got to go back and get those books. The Art of Talking Dirty. I mean,
there's actually 2 or 3 of them that I've done. by different authors. So, you'll have your pick.
Well, maybe I'll just get them all. I mean, I got enough credits saved.
Absolutely.
And it's too bad we can't gift those anymore, because I'd give them out to a couple people and say, here, this might be something that might interest you. Or just, here's a self-help book. I think you should. Maybe they might not accept it, right? So maybe.
Well, you never know. If the person brings up something, and you feel comfortable, then that's when you segue into it. Like, oh, well, maybe you should check out something.
You should check out this book. It's narrated by Lia in her lovely voice, and you can't help but want to follow some of those tips that are in the book. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yes, that works.
So you mentioned that transitioning from stage to narrating with just you and the microphone, what was the hardest part that you had to grasp? I mean, besides the fact that now you're kind of in this box versus you were on this big stage, what were some of the other things that you kind of had to kind of get used to make you be in the moment or be comfortable with performing in front of the mic?
One of the big things about being in a box, it was you can't put the whole thing in your body and use your whole body and move around to express the character. So having to learn to bring that in, but still project those same feelings and that the character is going through, and relate that subtext without the visual. That was a challenge, and it still sometimes is, because sometimes I'll get really into it and all of a sudden my arms are moving around. I'm like, no, and I can't, because I've hit the way. I have to go back and redo it because I slammed my hand against the door. It happens. So, because I think it can be very easy to fall in the trap of I'm just sitting in a chair and I'm just talking into a mic without putting the emotion behind it. So I'm very conscious of that, and I still treat it like theater. I research my characters, I think about them, I look at the descriptions given in the text, I create that person in my head and visually, of course, see them while I'm speaking so I can speak their truth. And speak the truth of the author. I mean, they've put their heart into this. I want to honor their work by giving the best that I can. And writing styles are all different. Some are easier to speak than others, but you make it work. So I think the big thing for me was, again, not projecting vocally and physically, not just throwing myself all over the place. So
yeah, so you can't scream into your microphone when you want to scream.
You can, but your editor will be very angry, and your mic will also be very angry at you. So, so I learned that the hard way too. I was like, well, maybe if I just scoot back a little bit, I can be loud. And to a point, maybe you can do that, but it sounds different. So you learn how to modify how it's the intensity behind it. I think that can relay it versus the volume. So yeah, because you can't, blood curdling scream if you're doing a mystery or some bloody gory thing and somebody's getting stabbed. Obviously you can't.
You can't go. You can't do right. You can't do the psycho shower scream in front of your mic, because, and then I could imagine an editor sitting there. I bet my editor sometimes is like, "Dang, I wish she would just back up a little bit from her microphone." But sorry, that's what she gets paid for, to make sure she adjusts it for me.
Yeah,
but
the screen. My editor has been like, you almost blew my eardrum out with that one. I have a setting now, so I know if it goes into this red zone as I'm recording, I know I've gone too loud, and I go back and redo it right then and there. So I'm not blowing his ears out, because he needs his ears. They're very good ears. So I would like him to continue doing what he's doing. So that,
it makes sense. So we do know that you currently are narrating under a pseudonym.
Yes.
In case you guys didn't know that. And so I've always wanted to know how you guys come up with the names that you use. So I would love to know how Lia Langola became to be.
Well, it's actually a really good story, I think. The first two books that I was doing, The Art of Kinky Sex and The How to Talk Dirty, that I mentioned earlier, as I was recording those, I was like, I can't do this under my real name. I have children. They're in school. Their friends are tech savvy. They don't need to know that so-and-so's mom did a book about giving blowjobs, which I've done a book on that too. So I was like, I need to change it to protect my kids, because they don't deserve what I choose to do should not, get them bullied or harassed or anything in school. And that was a concern. So while I was doing one of those books, they came up with, there was a term mentioned, the scientific term for dirty talk is lagnolalia. And I looked at the word and I saw the Lia at the end, the LIA. So I moved that to the front and it was Lia Langola, but that sounded really gross. So I changed it to Lia Langola. I switched the N and the G around. And that also worked because L is my favorite letter in the alphabet. So I love lovely, lascivious, excuse me. I'm like all over the place now because I love the L words. They're beautiful. Lollipop, love, like, l'amour, if we're going to go French. So, that's how Lia Langola was born. And I thought that was nice because I was doing books about talking dirty. So
I love that. I love
and
that.
It's an unusual name. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So it's easy to get domains and everything like that. So I got my website and everything. So check out lialangola.com. It's pretty sexy.
Yeah, everybody, check out that. See how we segued into that nice plug for you to go and check out the website. You've got to do it. And I love this story. I love how you guys do quirky and different things to fit you as the character that you are as this performer. And it's just like, when people do film acting and they come up with stage names and they want it to fit, what genre or that personality of their character. And so you found something that was perfect and you changed the last name around so it didn't sound like, gross, like you said, some type of disease or something.
Like Nola sounded. It's kind of like Magnolia, but it just, I didn't like the G there. So I was like, Langola. Yeah. It sounds prettier.
It is very pretty. It's very sexy, and it totally goes with your brand. So we'll give you another clap for that one because we like it.
Thank you.
And so you guys won't know what her other name is because she would not divulge that information on the show. So sorry, we can't expose her. We try to keep everything discreet around these parts.
Thank you. It is appreciated.
Yeah, of course, we can't have everybody going around knowing that she's doing the narration for Talking Dirty and blowjobs. So.
Yeah, the other name, I do children's books and Christian literature and business. And sometimes those don't match up very well.
They don't match at all. There's no sometimes. They just don't match. Let's just call it out. It just doesn't match. We're fine with keeping them separate. I like all books, but I tend to go a little bit on the sexy side. So that's why we have you on here and we're talking about your work as Lia. So I appreciate that. Okay, so have you had an opportunity to do a book that was so emotional that you kind of had to, kind of take a moment and kind of step away? I know that there's some books that people do and there's some parts in it that are, either really dark or maybe they're just really funny. And I know you're an actress. And for me, you read something and, you've seen the show Saturday Night Live and even old Carol Burnett when they kind of go off. They kind of go off and they kind of laugh and they're trying not to laugh, but they do anyway. So do you ever have any of those happen to you while you're in the booth?
More often than not. The funny things, sometimes an image will pop into your head. Like I did a book, another self-help on sex positions. And there was something about the rolling logs or something. I can't remember the name of the position, but it was like, the image that came into my head of two people engaged face to face and then rolling around like logs. There was another one where the woman's on top and she's supposed to spin around on top of him, and it made me think of Sound of Music, the opening sequence, which is spinning. I mean, when those things get in your head, it just stops.
Yes, it's in my head now. Thank you. Thank you.
I imagine recording that. I remember the spinning around one probably took me about 10 takes because I could not stop laughing. And even after I thought I had it under control, I didn't, and had to go through the whole process again. But so those are some of the funny things. Sometimes you miss, I think it's called spoonisms, when you mix up the first letter of two words, and then all of a sudden it's like he hit her on the, instead of I hit her on the head with the fork, it was I hit her on the fed with the pork, that kind of thing. And you catch yourself, your brain automatically goes, what did you just say? And you have to and go back. Occasionally there's been some material that's been darker than I prefer, and it's mainly been in collections. Like I did a collection for Cleus called Kinky, and it's explicit erotica, and they're very well written stories, but there's one that was just so difficult for me to process because it is a real fetish, and it was just what this woman was doing to herself in this book was just mind-blowing to me. But it's a piece that I go back and read a lot because it's so well written and it's such an emotional response from me. It's disturbing. But if you like some of those things, Kinky is a really great one to listen to. And with authors and publishers I work with, I've set out, I don't want to do the dark stuff. I won't do anything that's not consensual. And I have my guidelines, and they've all been pretty good at it. One did send me a book, a series, and I was like, oh, good, because it would be the second series I would have done with her. But it dealt with sex slaves, and it had a happy ending. And I met someone who's a victim of that, and that it's not a happy ending. So I declined that book, and she was wonderful and gave me a different series that she did. Still had some BDSM, but it was not in that same realm that was uncomfortable for me.
And it just makes sense that you have an opportunity to say, I have a line with certain things, and that people are really good about that. And it's interesting enough, on Facebook, someone mentioned something about, is there a line between, and I'm paraphrasing, is there a line between what should not be written, or are there certain topics that shouldn't be considered romance? And I think this book had to do with incest or something like that. And the thing is, there's an audience for everybody. If we're just honest about it, there's an audience for pretty much everything. And we're not all going to agree or like certain things. And we may not call incest romance. It just might have to fit in that category. It might need to be somewhere else. But and that's up to you to decide what you're comfortable with, and people will still respect that and say, oh, well, that's fine, well, I have this other one, because they really like your work, and so they'll go and find that you can go and do something else. And I like that you guys have that line, kind of a demarcation. It's like, I'm on this side, but on this side I just don't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, and it's nice that in the industry there are authors and publishers who respect that, and because we're a close-knit group as narrators, we can, if there's people who are okay with doing those subjects, we can then recommend, hey, I'm not up for this piece, but this person may be. And I have sent work to other people when things have come to me that are not something I feel comfortable with. And that's great. I think the favors, it comes back around, and they respect that as long as you're upfront about it. I think that makes a big difference.
It does.
And then they just don't offer you those kinds of things anymore. They find something else. Because again, as you said, there's different things will float up people's boat. There's some things I don't consider romance, and some people do, like you said, and that's fine. So I won't listen to it. I won't read that, but more power to the people that do.
Exactly. And so how many titles are you at with Lia? How many does she have under her belt right now?
There are 59 currently available. There's one that's being edited right now, and next week I start on another one, and then I've got 3 more after that.
Well, when you get to 69, we should have a party.
I know. That will be a lot of fun. And I should have a party for 69.
You should. That would be so much fun. We're like, Lia Langola reaches 69 audiobooks and then put a big wink, because
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that should be next year. By next year, I should get that. So
it could be this year. Well, you just said you have 3 and one is being edited. So that's in the 60s.
That's 60. That'll put me at 65 by the end of the year, I think. Timing, sometimes things change. Sometimes I get ahead, sometimes not.
Well, I'm going to cross okay, if you don't get 69 before this year's over, then definitely, I would say by February, March-ish,
Yep.
then you should be at 69, and I will throw a big party on the audio flow as we celebrate 69. And it's going to be so much fun.
Oh, yeah. And I'll help get you surprise prizes and things like that.
Oh, yes. We're doing it. You heard it here first, everybody, on the Featured Voice. Once Lia hits 69, it's on and popping. We are having a Facebook party, and It's going to be dirty. Because it's 69. I mean, it can't be clean.
Well, it can be clean.
It's Facebook
dirty
clean.
Yeah.
Dirty clean. That's the new hashtag. Dirty clean.
Dirty clean. I like it.
So are there any genres or tropes that are your favorite, like your personal favorite? What do you like to read or listen to when you're not working? Which is weird because you're always working, but in your downtime.
Yeah, and it's hard because I have so many scripts from both names that do different genres, so I'm constantly reading those. But if I'm reading on my own, I really enjoy mysteries. Mm-hmm. My grandmother, as a child, got me hooked on those, so that's always fun to go back to. And recently, I've been listening to some sci-fi audiobooks because I used to love sci-fi as a kid, but I didn't read a lot of it. I read some. But there's some good stuff out there. I was listening to Ender's Game recently, and it was fantastic. I need to listen to the rest of the series now, so that's on the docket.
I love it.
I also recently was listening to Dragon Fantasy, which is fun. It's oh my gosh, it's by Vikas Adam, and the name of the book just went out of my head. Something about good dragons. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot. But it was wonderful. I think he actually won an Audie for it.
Yeah, he did.
He did. Now
I'm gonna look it up now.
All Good Dragons. Oh my gosh, and it was fantastic. So I'm glad he won because it was phenomenal, and inspired me actually to start thinking about that genre for my other name. So I was like, all right, I don't know if I could do something like this. So now I know.
Yes, now you know. Okay, so you will be interested in narrating sci-fi, and have you done any sci-fi?
Not as Lia. I did one in my other name. I did a short story, and it was really good. Very well written. So I would love to try a dirty romance in space. I think that would be a lot of fun.
It would be.
And I've never done any of the shapeshifter ones where, people are werewolves or bears or tigers or dragons. I've not done any of those yet. So who knows? Maybe that will open up another avenue. I'm curious about it because they're
very popular.
Very, very huge fans out there of that. I see on those Facebook feeds a lot of people talking about them and enjoying them. I'm like, okay. And I have a lot of narrator friends who specialize in that.
Mm-hmm. So now we're putting the plug out there. Authors, if you write adult PNR, shifters perhaps specifically, or you are writing a sci-fi, naughty space romance, then Lia is interested in being a part of that project. And I do know a few people who write adult PNR. I know some that do NA too. So would you do that under Lia, or would you prefer to do that under your other name?
If it is super smexy and there's a lot of descriptive sex scenes, I do them as Lia.
Okay, that makes sense.
And if the cover does not look like something that a child should see, then it goes to Lia.
Okay, got it. We're on the same page then. We're on the same page. I got you. I got your back. And
but I still love the regular, but the sex romances that I do now. I mean, I've been very fortunate to go back and work with a lot of the same authors.
Mm-hmm.
That they've enjoyed the process and they've come back. So I take that as a huge compliment. And, and once you get used to the writing styles, it makes it really fun and really easy to jump back in.
Yeah, makes sense. So we're going to chat a little bit about Checkmate. Now, is this your latest release, or is this one going to release soon?
That one has been out. It's part of a 3 duet series by Kennedy Fox. So Checkmate, the sample I sent you is from the first book. So it's Checkmate, This is War.
Okay.
Which is followed by This is Love. And that is the first duet that covers 2 of the main characters. Then there's another Checkmate duet series with 2 other characters. And the third duet is one's being edited right now, and the other one I'll start recording in September.
Oh, nice. Yes. So, yeah. You're really busy.
Yeah. And Kennedy Fox wrote that. And recently, I don't know if you saw the post, but Kennedy Fox is also a pseudonym, and they recently outed themselves, the authors. So it's Brooke Cumberland and Lyra Parrish, who I'd also worked with separately on their own books. And I already have audiobooks up by then, 1 by Lyra and I think 3 from Brooke. And then they contacted me about doing their pseudonyms books.
I love it.
Again, great compliment, and love the writing style. It's been really fun working with them again. So
yeah, well, this has been the year of outings. I think a lot of people are outing. They're either outing themselves or they're doing more of those 2 people duet writings, and they're taking one part of their name, or they're just smashing 2 names together or what have you. But see, people like me, I'm like, I don't really care what your name is. Like, is it a good book, and do you sound good when you're narrating? And then by all means, I'm buying it. And so, but it's also fun too when people, kind of, want to go out there and they really want people to know it's them, and they're comfortable with doing that. So that's always fun. But we're gonna listen to this sample. It is it's a little over 2 minutes, everybody. So we get to listen to Lia's lovely voice for 2 minutes. Here's Checkmate, This is War by Kennedy Fox, narrated by Lia Langola.
Why did you kiss me last night? She turns and asks with rage in her eyes. Because you wouldn't shut up, I say without looking at her. It's a lie, and she knows it. I kissed her because I damn well wanted to. If I disgust you so much, why'd you jump me? She doesn't respond right away. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see her chewing on her lower lip, contemplating her answer. Bad judgment, I guess, she says, sounding defeated. I shouldn't have brought Alex back to the house. Andrew, I correct. Glancing over at her, I think about her shoulder again. The thought of it angers me, but I try to push thoughts of it away. She chuckles. Yeah, whatever. So why did you? She shrugs, pursing her lips. It was nice to feel wanted. I'd hoped you'd be in your room and you'd be woken up from the sounds of us coming home. I wanted to hurt you the way you hurt me. Her voice is so soft, raw with emotion, and it's the first time in a long time I've seen her this vulnerable. I pull the car over on the shoulder and shift the gear into park, letting it idle. What are you doing? She asks, looking around. I unbuckle my belt without answering her. Reaching over the center, I unbuckle hers and wait for it to zip back into place. Ask me again, I say, turning so we're face to face. Ask you what? She furrows her brows. Ask me again why I kissed you last night. She licks her lips and swallows, tracing my features with her eyes. She shifts her body slightly toward me and blinks. Why'd you kiss me last night? The corner of my lips tilt, so fucking glad she actually listened to me for once. Because I couldn't take another minute of not having the taste of you on my lips.
Couldn't take another minute without having the taste of you on my lips. I love it. And so now I'm going to go. I have 3 credits left. I think I should just go and This is the best part about my job doing the feature voices when I listen to the samples and people talk about their books, and then I'm over here writing a list to be listened to, and I have 200 on the list. Oh, where should I move this one up? Yeah, I'm gonna move this one up to like 89. No, 69, because that's our number, and this will be like 69.
That's fantastic.
But okay, so this is one big thing that I like. I like your tone in the male character, and I think it's really an ode to female narrators that can do that without trying to make themselves sound like what we think a man should sound. You know what I mean? Like, you're not
Yeah.
gonna sound like Barry White, or I mean, because his voice is like way down there, and I don't think I would want you to sound like Barry White, but
It would not be pretty.
it would be like how I sound in the morning, and it's not cute. And so I like that it still kind of gives me that, yeah, it's got that male tone, and it's what the character is saying that still makes me. And everybody knows my hashtag Tingletown. That takes me to Tingletown. And so, what's been what's been like your process, or your study to kind of come up with your tone that you use when you're doing the male characters?
Well, again, like with any character, I write down whatever clues are given in the text by the author, what they've written in their descriptions. And then after reading the book, which is very important to read the book before you start recording, because you don't want an accent or a lisp to appear at the end after you've already finished. I take all that into consideration and just try to place it. I'm fortunate in that I have more of an alto sound anyway. Mm-hmm. So I can go up as needed, and that's really easy, but I can also just go down a little bit and still get, I think, not a forced sound for the males. I will say that I have, as you were saying that, I had a short story I did when I first started, and I did try to sound like a man. And it was terrible. I mean, again, if I could go back and redo it kind of thing. Again, it was probably my third or fourth attempt. And but, again, you live, you learn. But I just think finding just a natural spot, men's voices tend to resonate more in the lower part of your body. So I try and think of their voice in my chest. Mm-hmm. If Barry White were to talk to me, I would feel those vibrations in my chest. Mm-hmm. Somebody with a deep voice. So I just try and think and place it there. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And so do you have a routine that you use to make sure that you, don't overexert any parts of your, vocal cords or anything? Now, I've seen the straw trick. Okay. I've seen it and I've tried it.
Oh, okay.
The straw trick. And I was like, no, that doesn't work for me. But do you do any type of tricks that helps you with either keeping, your voice from sounding like mine, all crackly and stuff? Because I'm all new to this whole using my voice, talking all the time thing. And so what do you do to make sure that you don't sound like me?
You sound fine. So you're good on that. But there's several things, and it kind of just depends on the weather and also just general health. But hydration is the main thing. Mm-hmm. If I'm thirsty at all, or I'm just feeling dry, my voice will be very poppy and smacky sounding. Mm-hmm. Lots of mouth noise. We all have mouth noise, but it seems to be exaggerated then. Not talking, especially if you have, if I'm coming up on a chapter that has a lot of characters with lots of different ranges, or there's a big emotional scene and I know that it's going to be draining, I just, again, be quiet. Mm-hmm. I do, if my voice is dry, there's a spray from Thayer's that can help re-moisten the mouth. I don't seem to have that problem now that I have a booth. The temperature stays pretty much the same in there as far as humidity and things like that. So I know some people have said green apples help, but I have found that it makes me not. It doesn't help me.
It doesn't help her.
If I'm burping while I'm recording, it kind of defeats the purpose. So
yeah, it kind of does. Stay away from the green apples, ma'am.
but other people swear by it. So, but I think rest is the main thing. And if you start feeling like your throat is going to be bothering you a lot, warm water or hot water with lemon and honey is my go-to, especially in the winter. It's harder in the summer when it's so hot, but I have done it twice this summer. I had a cold earlier. Summer colds suck. All colds suck, but it's really bad in the summer too. But I did have hot liquid, even though it was like really hot outside, but my throat needed it. So.
Yeah. You got to do what you have to do. That's your money maker.
Exactly. Throat coat is also really nice too.
What is it called?
So, throat coat.
Yeah, somebody else mentioned that too. It's like throat coat. That sounds really dirty, but I might have to.
It does sound dirty, but it is not. It's quite tasty. It's got a nice little sweet to it, and it gives temporary relief. I mean, nothing is going to totally do it except full vocal rest.
Right. So you mentioned in your booth about the temperature. Is yours temperature controlled? How do you stay cool in there without, the fan? This is a question I need to know, because some people say they're just like, outside of being naked, I don't know. There's no fan.
No, there is no
fan.
Well, I have a studio brick booth. It has an air system in there, so it kind of filters the air and keeps it moving a little bit. But I always, at the end of a chapter, open the door to get fresh air in there.
Okay.
Or if there's like a mid-chapter break, I open the door and get some fresh air in. But there are times, especially in the summer, my booth is near a window. If the sun's hitting it just right, it will start to get pretty warm in there. So I have been stripped down to my underwear before in the booth.
Team underwear.
Underwear. That just seems more comfortable, especially on that chair. That chair has a texture on the bottom. It's like this full blend texture thing. It's very uncomfortable, even in your underwear, but it works for that amount of time. I've also put in like cold washcloths on the back of my neck if it's been really bad, but it hasn't been too bad this year. Knock on, where's some wood here? It's bad this year. There were a couple of days where it was pretty toasty in there. But again, if I open the door regularly, get some fresh air in there, I'm good to go. And also stand up and walk around.
Oh yeah. And so, but in the wintertime, is it a lot better in the winter because you don't have to be, cool, and it's insulated, so it's a little warmer?
It's actually so toasty. Sometimes it makes you want to take a nap. So I have to open the door and let the cold air in to wake me back up. Because, it's toasty. It's fantastic. My cat would live in there if he could, because I have to keep the door closed now because he's gone up and like scratched on the foam.
Ah, no, he thought it was a toy, his scratch pad.
Come in here anymore. So I make sure that door is closed. So.
Well, sounds good. All right, last question I think I have for you, if it didn't escape my mind already. So what are you working on now? Anything you can tell us that's coming up in the next few weeks?
Actually, I just got a script yesterday from Erica Wild, who I've done a series with. It's the Players Club, as well as the Marriage Diaries. So she has a new series called A Vegas Heat.
Oh, nice.
And so the book is called Game of Chance. So I'll be working on that starting next week. And then the Checkmate third duet, like I said, is one's being edited, and then that the last part of that third duet will be out probably at the beginning of October in audiobook. It'll be out in September, I think, for ebooks.
Sounds
so
good.
Those are two of them. And I think Victoria Quinn and E.L. Todd have a few things in the pipeline. They haven't given me titles yet, but they said, be ready. So I'm just going to be ready for them.
Yeah, see, I'm thinking, so if somebody else pops in and says they want you to do something and you can squeeze it in, I'm telling you, we might be able to make that 69 deadline.
It's very possible. It's possible.
And when it happens, I want you to just put on my Facebook page 69, but I want you to type it out, 60 and 9. And and we'll know what it means. I mean, everybody who listens to this will know, but just and I'm all about it. She's making notes right now, so she can make sure that she hits me up, and you all will know what it means. 69 in the place. Oh my gosh. Well, it has been absolutely wonderful and amazing speaking with you today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to chat and be a part of the featured voice. I hope you've had a good time as much as I have.
I have, and I appreciate you inviting me to be a part of this. This is really exciting, and I thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome. Now, tell everybody where they can find Lia on social media.
Okay, you can find me on my website at lialangola.com. I'm also on Facebook as Lia Langola, narrator, and you can find me on Twitter as Lia Langola.
All right. We love it. We love to keep it simple here. So if you just look that up, you'll be able she's the only Lia Langola out there. It's not like you're gonna run into to anybody else. And be sure that you follow us on Facebook, The Audio Flow, and also on Instagram at The Audio Flow, and also on Twitter at the_audio_flow. We like to keep it simple as well here. Thanks to my producer, Danielle, for all of her amazing help. To my new assistant, Rebecca, for keeping everything straight. You guys are wonderful. I love you. And thank you so much for listening to the featured voice. Be sure you tune in at the end of September, where we will start season 2 with some more exciting and fabulous narrators for you to meet and love. Everybody, have a great week. Bye.